As the Money Burns is an original podcast by Nikki Woodard. Based on historical research, this is a deep exploration into what happened to a set of actual heirs and heiresses to some of America's most famous fortunes when the Great Depression hits. Each episode has 3 primary sections. Section 1 is a narrative story. Section 2 goes deeper into the historical facts. Section 3 focuses on contemporary, emotional, and personal connections. Story recap. While the most eligible bachelor, Jacob Astor, gains his fortune, his mother, Madeline Astor, tries to marry her 3rd husband. Now back to As the Money Burns. Catch of the season. Another heir, another birthday, 2 fortunes, a special gift, and by chance, possibly, someone to share it with. Section 1. Story. Nothing gets the engagement season more excited than the influx of well-funded future spouses. Marriage-minded mamas and daughters are salivating on the potential crop of bachelors this 1933 summer season. Jakey, John Jacob Astor VI, Alfie, Alfred Vanderbilt Jr., and Wooly, Woolworth Donahue, are all in the mix. Even better, each is considered taking a serious turn with no playboying funny business to go around. After returning from cousin Barbara Hutton's wedding to Prince Alexis Mdivani, her cousin, another future Woolworth heir, Woolworth Wooly Donahue, is spotted frequently escorting Dorothy Dottie Fell. Rumors have it an engagement announcement is pending. Only Wooly isn't an heir in full yet. Not only does he have another year until his 21st birthday, but an even larger obstacle is that his widowed mother, Jessie Woolworth Donahue, is alive and well, and holding on to her fortune for quite a bit longer. Meanwhile, Wooly is seemingly smitten. Upon return from the Paris wedding, he resumes his courtship of Dottie. When she heads off to Europe, he follows her, then travels with her and her family aboard the ocean liner Europa upon their return to the United States. Life always has milestones that demarcate a change in life and status. Becoming an adult is definitely one of them. There might be rituals and celebrations for this life event, and truthfully, little might happen afterwards. However, for some of those milestones can come with far larger changes, especially if it comes with an inheritance. 1912 had one event that defined an era, the sinking of the Titanic. It was also a year that several young heirs and heiresses were born, all of whom in 1933 are now turning 21, thus gaining their fortunes, unlike the waiting Wooly. High up in profile on that list is the Titanic baby, proud scion John Jacob Astor VI, aka Jakey. During the disaster, he survives inside his mother's womb while losing his father only to be born months later. Unfortunately, his father's will had not been changed, so Jakey only gets a small pittance of one of the largest fortunes at the time, while the vast majority goes to eldest half-brother Vincent Astor, and another amount nearly 3 times larger than Jakey's will go to older half-sister Ava Alice Muriel Astor. Only a month after Jakey's birth, another prominent heir, Alfred Gwynne Vanderbilt Jr., aka Alfie, is born on September 22, 1912. This second heir had at least 3 years with his father, Alfred Freddie Vanderbilt Sr., the de facto heir of the Vanderbilt fortune, passed from brother to brother as 3 of the 4 met their fates far too early. Freddie got the fortune due to a dispute between his father, Cornelius Vanderbilt II, and second eldest brother, Cornelius Vanderbilt III, aka Neely. Eldest brother, William Bill Vanderbilt, passed away in college, and Neely married Bill's potential fiancée, Grace Wilson, despite the parental objections. Only Freddie is traveling for business aboard the Lusitania during World War I when a torpedo sank the ship in 1915, while Uncle Reginald Reggie Vanderbilt becomes the next male head of the Vanderbilt family, only to die a few years later, leaving Uncle Neely in charge after reconciling with his mother, Dowager Alice Vanderbilt. But Freddie's sons each get more favorable portions than had the Astors or the earlier Vanderbilt clan. Alfie, too, has an older half-brother, William Vanderbilt, who gets his own substantial fortune, while Alfie shares a trust with his younger brother, George Vanderbilt. But for now, Jakey and Alfie are in demand. High net worth, elite social standing, similar tragedies. Only 21 years later, they are in fairly different circumstances. As Jakey and Alfie's big birthdays approach, the press has a field day with these sea victims marked by iceberg and torpedo. Despite the perils of 1929, many estimate their fortunes still more than doubled over the years. Alfie will inherit a minimum twice the amount as Jakey. Alfie not only receives a Vanderbilt inheritance equally split with his younger brother George, Alfie and George also inherit a separate split fortune from their maternal grandfather, Captain Isaac B. Emerson of Baltimore. Money-heavy Alfie might inherit more money, but it will come to him in pieces of trust over the years at 21, 25, 30, and 35. Not all at once, like it has for Jakey. More comparisons appear. Both lads grew up with tutors and don't seem too keen for heading to college. Jakey attends Newport's St. George's private school, while Alfie graduates from St. Paul's in New Hampshire. Jakey is supposed to be a Harvard man, while Alfie heads to Yale. Jakey's grandmother is the Gilded Age Society Queen Caroline Astor, long past, and Alfie's grandmother, Dowager Alice Gwynne Vanderbilt, is the last remaining living society queen of the early Gilded Age era. Alva Vanderbilt Belmont was Alfie's great-aunt by marriage. Jakey is definitely haughtier and seems more intrigued by the social standing of his name and participating in capital S society, while Alfie prefers to avoid it altogether. Alfie always appears the shy and quiet person in the room. Only Alfie loves horses and horse racing, often skipping Newport Colony activities for the horse racing activities in Saratoga. This year he is spotted with his Aunt Gertrude Vanderbilt Whitney at the August races. As a special birthday present, Alfie inherits from his mother, Margaret Maggie Emerson McKim Vanderbilt Baker Armory, the prestigious Sagamore Stables, a horse farm established in 1925 by his grandfather Emerson, who then bequeathed it to his daughter with the instructions to give it to Alfie on his 21st birthday. Alfie has been a fan of thoroughbred racing since he first attended the Preakness Stakes in 1922. Despite joining Yale's class of 1935, Alfie isn't going to be too focused on his education now that his love of horse racing takes over. Alfie is definitely considered a catch of the season, only he isn't quite available. Still unmarried and so far unengaged, but Alfie has a steady relationship with Dorothy Dolly DeMillau for years, keeping him off the potential eligible list. They were the best of friends as children, and Dolly still appears to be his main gal. Friday, September 22nd, 1933. In Sands Point, Long Island, his mother Maggie is now referred as Charles Minot Armory, though she has been an unattached divorcee since 1931. Maggie hosts the official birthday gathering for 75 guests from the horsey set for a dinner dance where Alfie blows out his 21 candles. Now the question remains, will Alfie be sharing his fortune with Dolly? Monday, September 25th, 1933. A very, very secret engagement is exposed. It is none other than Wooly and Dottie. They got engaged over the weekend, and Dottie got a nice large ring to show off. Thursday, September 28th, 1933. It's official. Wooly Donahue and Dottie Fell will be getting married this winter. One heir down, so many others to go. Section 2, History and Historiography. One thing is for certain, there's always another fortune to add to the mix. Before we get back into the Vanderbilt fortune, let's discuss pharmacist Captain Isaac Emerson's road to fortune. In 1888, he invents an antacid, Romo-seltzer, to relieve heartburn, indigestion, and related elements with both painkiller and sedative effects. This became a popular hangover remedy. The compound today is a mixture of sodium bicarbonate, citric acid, and acetaminophen, which replaces earlier toxic ingredients, acetanilide, and the bromide which served as a tranquilizer. The fizzying texture of this compound reminds the extensive traveler Emerson of the volcano Mount Bromo in Java. Bromo seltzer will be mentioned in multiple films, including The Postman Always Rings Twice, 1981, and The Hudsucker Proxy, 1994, TV series The Simpsons and The Golden Girls, as well as mentioned in John Steinbeck's The Grapes of Wrath. Bromo seltzer is also mentioned in songs by Rodgers and Hart, the Broadway musical Guys and Dolls, and a spoof remake by Spike Jones of the song Laura, which was the original song for the Otto Preminger's film Laura, starring Gene Tierney and Dana Andrews. Another sodium bicarbonate mixture, Alka-Seltzer, will be invented in 1978 by Bayer. Alfred Freddie Gwynne Vanderbilt Sr. is the third son of Cornelius Vanderbilt II and Alice Claypool Gwynne Vanderbilt. Freddie will inherit a large portion of the family fortune due to the first son, brother William Bill Vanderbilt's premature death in college, then second son, brother Cornelius Vanderbilt III, a.k.a. Neely, being disinherited for marrying Bill's potential fiancée, Grace Wilson. Freddie will marry first wife Ellen Elsie Tuck French in 1901, and they have one son, William Henry Vanderbilt III, born in 1901. William will be the future governor of Rhode Island. Freddie and Elsie divorce in 1908 on the charge of adultery, after which the accused mistress, Agnes O'Brien Ruiz, will commit suicide after the scandal in 1909. Agnes will be one of 4 women associated with Freddie to have died that way. Freddie marries second time to divorcee Margaret Maggie Emerson in 1911. They have 2 sons, Alfred Alfie Gwynne Vanderbilt Jr. in 1912 and George Washington Vanderbilt III in 1914. Maggie herself marries several times, first to wealthy Baltimore physician Dr. Smith Hollins McKim from 1902 to 1910. In the divorce, she claimed he beat her in drunken rages. Then she marries Freddie in 1911 and is widowed in 1915. Third husband is Raymond Baker from 1918 to 1928, and they have a daughter, Gloria Baker. Then Maggie marries fourth husband, Charles Minot Armory, from 1928 to 1931. By the way, in 1928, Raymond Baker marries Delphine Dodge Cromwell, heiress to the Dodge fortune and the ex-wife of James Jimmy HR Cromwell. Yes, the story is quite incestuous, far more than you can imagine. I can't even tell you how many more revelations I have gotten since chasing down all the future spouses in this story. Ellen Elsie Tuck French is the great-aunt to 1933 Newport debutante Ellen Tucky French. Charles Minot Armory's first wife, Gladys Munn, will marry into the Pulitzer family. Getting confused enough already? Alfred Sr., a.k.a. Freddie, will die when German U-boat U-20 torpedoes the passenger ship RMS Lusitania, sinking it in 18 minutes on May 1, 1915. As the trip was business, Alfred traveled only with his valet, Ronald Denyer. Much like his Astor counterpart, John Jacob Astor IV, Freddie will be noted in a gentlemanly and heroic way, meeting his fate, aiding others into lifeboats, and giving away his life jacket to a young mother with her baby, even tying it on her himself. Freddie was unable to swim, and he and Denyer are among the 1,199 passengers who did not survive. Freddie's body is never recovered. British ocean liner RMS Lusitania is built by Cunard, launches in 1906, wins the Blue Ribbon in 1908, and meets its fate on its 202nd Atlantic crossing. After sinking, its sister ship, Mauretania, serves as a warship transporting troops and later a hospital ship for wounded soldiers. Later, after World War I, disputes will break out between Britain, the United States, and Germany. Germany claims the Lusitania was carrying munitions aboard and was a warship, while Britain and the U.S. insist it was a large civilian passenger ship. As another point of interest, Sagamore Stables is now referred as Sagamore Farms, while owner of the above, Alfred Alfie Vanderbilt Jr., will also become owner and president of Pimlico Racecourse in Baltimore, where in 1938 Alfie will stage the famous match between War Admiral and Seabiscuit. He will also become president of the Belmont Racetrack in New York. Alfie is the grandfather of James Vanderbilt, the screenwriter of 2007 Zodiac, 2012 The Amazing Spider-Man, 2016 Independence Day Resurgence, and later installments of the Scream franchise in 2022 and 2023. History comes in many shapes and sizes, and it is far more connected than first appears. Section 3, Contemporary and Personal Relevance. This story has always been about the specter of death and how it impacts a person long afterwards. When people think of heirs and heiresses, they only think about an abundance of money. But those inheritance come with the loss generally of a parent or grandparent, so there are far more complicated emotional ties and the complications of identity attached. Long ago, I noticed how the loss of a loved one marks a person, how the deceased becomes locked in time and memory. The loss can come in different forms: divorce, abandonment, death. All that matters is the one left behind needs something more. I myself experienced the aftermath of parental divorces on me, my siblings, cousins, and various friends, and the loss of my brother, still quite young to cancer. It takes a lot to reconcile the mind to loss, and the permanence of death can allow for more ideological wishful thinking to prevail. Oftentimes, this comes with an overcorrection and a lionization of the missing, the want of connection and the meaning to something grander. The last-minute heroism indicated in the deaths of Jack John Jacob Astor IV aboard the Titanic and Freddie Alfred Vanderbilt Sr. on the Lusitania would have their sons and namesakes proud to bear their names. While John Jacob Astor VI, a.k.a. Jakey, wishes to stake his rung on the social ladder, Alfred Vanderbilt Jr., a.k.a. Alfie, shows his father, mother, maternal grandfather, paternal aunt, and other Vanderbilt relatives' interest in racehorses. A legacy intertwined and potentially heightened over time. Other connections are the prevalence of mutual interest, how it translates either by nature genetically or by nurture with association and identity onto the next generation. There might be a natural preference that gets reinforced or heightened if mutually shared by the adored missing. For the Astors, Father Jack and his two sons, Vincent Astor and Jakey, all have interest in technology and fast vehicles. Vincent has quite a collection, and now that Jakey controls his fortune, he plans to indulge. Not really a surprise. That doesn't need to be genetic for what is already a predominantly male trait for that particular interest in fast machines in any form. And the extra money just funds the options. For the Vanderbilts, the mutual interest shows up in relation, in this case, to animals. Alfie's father, Freddie, plus his mother and grandfather all had a passion for racehorses, along with other Vanderbilt family members. Vanderbilts are involved in several forms of racing. Once again, not something too offbeat for people to have an interest in. And the prevalence of money allows the passion to be indulged to another level. For Alfie, I don't know how much his passion will manifest outside of racing, but when it comes to horses, he definitely has an affinity for them at all levels, from breeding to racing. It's interesting to see the process of time occasionally how certain heirs and heiresses and families relate to animals. It's another recurring theme which will become more prominent in time. As it will be through animals, one seduction will play out. Before 1933 ends, two more heiresses will turn 21 as the game of fortunes plays on. By now, some of these names get a little confusing, especially as they repeat frequently among generations and across marital connections. Thus, it is always a great way to be able to go back and backtrack all the intersections, so to speak. For this episode, I stumbled across a fun website, AmericanAristocracy.com, which can help locate a person, a house, or a place in association. I went down the twisty road of Vanderbilts and Astors to reconfirm certain marital alliances and, yes, nicknames. You can find 265 names on the original Caroline Astor and Ward McAllister's The 400 list. Check it out at AmericanAristocracy.com. Links in the notes and transcript. If you enjoy As the Money Burns, then please share, like, and subscribe. Next, when we return to As the Money Burns. Another day, another danger, as an heiress finds herself in double trouble. But a minor medical emergency is nothing compared to the tax man. Until then. As the Money Burns is an original podcast written, produced, and voiced by Nikki Woodard, based on historical research. Archival music has been provided by Past Perfect Vintage Music. Check out their website at www.pastperfect.com. Please come visit us at As the Money Burns via GoodPods X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, now Mado, or Instagram. Transcripts, timeline, episode guide, and character bios are available at asthemoneyburns.com.